Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Emmanuel, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to use SwiftGen to basically write cleaner code. And before I actually get to that, I want to start by showing you what the problem is. So what I have here is a blank project, but the only thing I did was in the main.storyboard, I have an image view right in the middle, and then this is connected to the view controller. And basically what we want to do here is we want to set the image of the image view to be whatever is in our asset. So like Facebook, for example. So what we're going to do very easily is say image view dot image, dot image, and this is going to be equal to UI image, and this is going to be named Facebook. Very easy, right? You can go ahead and run this, and you should see the Facebook logo right here. Perfect. Now, what if we want to add this same icon in many parts of our application? What we have to do is basically copy this, and then we go ahead and paste that in many places. Now, if for any reason the word Facebook changes or is broken in our asset or is missing, then we're not going to know. Nothing is going to happen. We're going to run the application, and then it's just going to be blank, which is not good, right? So what we could do to improve this is we can go ahead and create an extension right here of the UI image class. And basically what we're going to say is static let, and I can call this Facebook. This is going to be a UI image, and this is going to be equal to UI image named Facebook, which is basically the code I have over here. We can actually go ahead and either add the question mark or just force this here. But now that we have this as a static constant in our UI image, we don't need to do this over here. What we could just basically say is dot Facebook. And if we do this and we run it, we would still see Facebook here. But now this is way better because now we have a single source, and if anything happens or we want to change this, we can change this over here and it takes effect in the entire app. Or if for any reason this is broken, we're just aware. So if this changes to Facebook's, for example, then this is going to break at compile time. So it's not going to run the application with us thinking that the asset is good. So this is better. But now imagine that you have many more assets. So you have like 50, 100 in a big company, you have so many assets, then you would have a lot of this and you have to write them and change the name and everything like this. So it may be boring or just tiresome to implement. So if you're in a case like this, then you're in luck, because now we can use SwiftGen to basically generate stuff like this. So it's going to go through a template and then create code, Swift code, that matches the the structure of the template. So how exactly can we do that? The first thing we want to do is to open up your terminal and install SwiftGen. So you can do that by saying brew install SwiftGen. And I actually have that installed, so you can also go ahead and confirm by typing SwiftGen -- version. So I have version 6.6.2 currently installed. So now that we have that done, what we can do is head over to our project. And now we're going to, first of all, at least for me, I like to create a group or a folder where I have all of my SwiftGen code and config. So here I'm going to call this SwiftGen. And for us to use SwiftGen, we need to specify a config. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, create a new file, and this is going to be called SwiftGen, and you can call this whatever you want. I'm going to call mine SwiftGen.config, but it has to be .yml. All right, so go ahead and click this, make sure you use YML, and now we have our SwiftGen config file created. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to paste the config code that I have, and then I'm going to go ahead and explain. This is what I have. Now in our SwiftGen config file, the first thing we specified here is our input directory. So this is going to be what folder do we want to be our input. Give me everything within this folder is what we're saying. So SwiftGen tutorial is this folder. Now, the second thing is our output. Whenever we want to we've generated code, where do we want the output to be, or our base output, if you will? So this is going to be in our project, SwiftGen tutorial, and in a folder called SwiftGen. So remember, I want everything to be inside this folder. So if it's going to be generating an output, it's going to put that here by default. Okay. Next, we want to go through our xcassets files, right? So we want to go through anything that's .xcassets. So here, go through all our images. If we have one for maybe colors or app icon, whatever, just all of those xcassets files. So we need to specify that, and then we need to specify the inputs. Now here we only have one, which is the xcassets. So that's what I have specified here as the input. So take assets.xcasset as an input, and then you can use that to do whatever you want. And for the output, you can actually go here and specify a template name like this, and this is going to use the configuration from SwiftGen team, and you could do that, but I prefer to specify my own path and create a template that generates my own code. Okay, so for me to do that, I need to specify the path to my templates, which is what this is. So this is going to be SwiftGen tutorial, SwiftGen, and then my template is going to be called template.stencil, right? So we don't have that yet. So what I'm going to do is to actually go ahead and create this. So inside this folder, because that was what we specified, I'm going to create, well, we can just choose Swift file, paste this, create. Now this is going to create .swift, which is not what we want. So you can go ahead and just rename this and remove .swift. So we only want template.stencil. Go ahead and clear this. Okay. Now heading back here, the next thing we have is params, and I'm actually going to explain more of this when we go into our template code. But basically this just is some extra information that we are passing into our templates. Okay. Then finally we have the output, which basically is whenever you run the code or whenever we run the SwiftGen, take the output into a file called assets.generated.swift, and this is going to be the file name inside of this directory. All right, so that's actually it for this. Next we need to create our template. So I'm going to paste that and then go through it again. So this is our template, and I know, don't worry, this looks very messy, but I'm going to go through it and I'm sure this is going to make sense to you. Okay, so now if you look at this, we have some text that is written here, or some code if you will, and this is going to be printed exactly like this when the code is generated. All right, but when you have something in between the percentage and the curly braces, then that is going to execute. So for example, this is going to execute a condition saying if catalogs, then we want to do something. Now looking at this, it says if catalogs, then set the access modifier, and we want to set the access modifier, but we want to set it based on certain conditions, which is this if statement here. So if param.public access, and remember where this is? Do you remember? Right here, we have our params and public access. So we're saying here that if param.public access is true, then set the access modifier to be public. Else, if it is not true, meaning it is false, then set it to be internal. All right, so that's going to set the access modifier to be either public or internal. All right, now that we have that done, the next line here, we have macro, images, block, and assets. And you can just think of this as a function. So func, images, block, and then this is a parameter that's passed into the function, our assets. And when you pass in the assets, what we're doing here is, because it is a list of assets, we're going to loop through it. So loop through for asset in assets, then check whether the asset is an image. If it is an image, what we want to do is we want to create, or basically write what we had in the view controller, static let, and the name of the constant. This is going to be the asset name, and we're going to do some cleanup by basically setting the lower, the first word to be lower, and then we're going to escape reserved keywords, and this is basically going to create these camel case structures. So access modifier, capital M, that kind of thing. All right. And this is actually really important, because if you have a name, if you have an asset name, for example, like my icon, like this, you cannot say let my icon, right? This is not a valid variable or constant name. So what this is going to do is it's going to change this to my icon like this, which is correct. All right. So that's what this does. And then here we're specifying this type. You can actually go ahead and put a question mark if you will, or just go ahead and force this. Either way, it's safe because this is going to be generating code based on something that it is sure is in the assets, folder. So yeah, that's it. Then after that, what's going to happen is if there is items, then it's going to do a recursive call. So it's going to call itself and then pass in the assets item into the same function and then check whether there are images and just do. So basically what is happening is this is going to do a recursive, or this is a recursive call right here to make sure that if you have images nested within folders, it's going to go through all of the images and then generate the code for all the images, right? Then the exact same thing is happening for colors. So it's going to loop through, check if there are colors. If there's more items, so if it is an array, then go ahead and call the function again, do a recursive, and then get all the assets. And basically this is going to generate this code like this again. So this one's going to be of the UI color, and it's going to be named a color name. All right. And that's it. So here, what we're doing is we're basically creating, so like we did in the view controller, we create an extension of the UI image. But what we're doing here is imagine that you're using this in maybe a framework, then you want to make it maybe public or you want it to be internal, depending on your choice. It's going to use the access modifier that was determined here. So if it is public, it would write public extension UI image. If it is internal, it would write internal extension UI image. And what now happens here is going to loop through the catalogs, and then it's going to call the image blocks and send in the assets of the catalog and then get all the code generated. The exact same thing happens for colors. So yeah, this is not as complicated as it looks. I hope I was able to make it easy for you to understand. But anyhow, we have the template generated. We have the SwiftGen generated. The next thing we want to do is we can actually go ahead and build this, but I like to create this file right here just so that it is linked before we start to generate code. It's not compulsory, but if you don't do it, then the file is going to be generated but not linked to Xcode, and you have to do it manually. But anyhow, you can just go ahead, create the file, and this is going to be where all of your auto-generated code is going to stay, okay? So we have this here, and that's it. So we have our config, we have our template, and this is where our generated code is going to live. The last thing we want to do is whenever you build a project, we want to run our config. So how do we do that? First of all, click here, and then in your build phases, you want to create a new run script. We can actually go ahead and call this, I don't know why, oh yeah, SwiftGen. And then here, we want to paste in the code to run our config. Paste this here, and basically what is happening here is we're checking if SwiftGen exists. So if there's SwiftGen, then it's going to just call SwiftGen Config and run. And here we're basically pointing to our config file. So remember, the path to our config is SwiftGen tutorials, SwiftGen, and then swiftgen.config.yml, which is what this is. So else is going to throw an error. So we can actually go ahead and run this now so we can try building. And we see build succeeded. Let's see, do we have everything? Nope, we still have an error. Let's click here. I don't know why it said build succeeded. Let me try building again. So, whatever. But anyhow, we see that we have an error here, and it says that SwiftGen is not installed. And if we actually go over to our auto-generated file, nothing changed. And another thing I wanted to mention is the reason why this is showing as an error is because we have right here, we specified this as an error. So if we change this to a warning and we build, then this is going to be successful, and we will see that it's just showing as a warning. All right. So now that we have that done, another thing I want to mention is it's important for SwiftGen to be run before any other, at least for this thing. We're trying to generate code that is used within our code. So we want to make sure that this code is generated, or our assets to generate it is executed before all of these things are compiled. So we just make sure that everything we need is available. If not, what could happen is that your app builds and fails before it even generates the code that it needs. So you just have to make sure that this one is at the top. So now we try to build this, but we still get this error. So what do we do about that? We can just go ahead and change this back to an error. I don't know why, but I just like it as an error, so I know that something is wrong. But if it's not compulsory for you, then you can just go ahead and leave it as a warning. So how do we fix this? What we need to do is paste or basically point to our or export our path to brew. So I'm just going to paste that here. And now this is going to point to homebrew. And if we go ahead and build this, we should not see that anymore. So we don't have the error. And if we go to our assets.generated, something beautiful just happened. It generated our code. And now we have Facebook over here. But now we're getting this error because it's really clearing. If you go to the view controller, you can see that we have that here. So you can just go ahead and delete that because we don't need it anymore. So now you can build this. Everything built successfully. We can go ahead and run the app and we should see Facebook here. And let's do something quite nice. I'm going to open up the asset and I'm going to drag the icons folder here. Oops. And we already have Facebook, so we can delete that. But we've added 2 new icons. So what we would have done is we would have gone and then typed static let for Google and for Twitter. But now all we need to do is just Command B. So now that we've built this, we just go and we can see that it has been added, and we can just say .google and we run this. We should see the Google, beautiful. And we can try Twitter, run this, and voila. So you can see just how beautiful this SwiftGen made life for us. Like, it's just so easy for us to add assets and we can reference them in a very type-safe manner. All right. Now, if you found value in this, you can go ahead and subscribe, but don't go yet because I want to show you one more thing. Let's go ahead and add colors. So let's say you're the kind of person that likes to, create your color tokens here. You could go ahead and add them in your assets file, or we could go ahead and create a new assets, xcassets file. So we come here, asset catalog, and here I'm gonna say colors. So this is my xcassets for colors. And here I can come and create a new color set. And we can call this custom. So see what I'm doing here? I use the hyphen to name my color. And here, let's actually give it some values. I'm just going to choose some random values for light and dark mode. Nope. Okay, let's go. Then I can go ahead and create another one. And this time I'm going to use default, which is a keyword that is, it is, what's the word? I forgot. The system uses it anyhow. So for default, you can I'm just going to choose maybe pink and let's say teal. Okay, so we've added both of these colors. So if we go ahead and build this, let's go and check whether these assets were added. Actually, no. So the only thing that was added was the accent color, which is in our assets here, right? But what we want is this one. So what do we need to do? Go over to your SwiftGen Config and make sure you specify the colors.xcassets. And by doing just that, you can go ahead and build. And if we go to the generated, you can see that now we have 2 more icons, or 2 more colors rather. So this is custom color. And you see that it changed this to this. It made it possible for us to use it as a constant. And for default, it was able to add this stuff. So we can use the keyword default, because if you tried to do like this, you can see that this is not a variable name or a constant name that you can use, right? So what does it say? Anyhow. So yeah, it does this out of the box for you. And with this, you can go to your view controller and we can say background color to be equal to, I can say my custom color. And this is gonna run the app. You see the color, change mode, wonderful. At the same time, I can say default, I run this, and perfect. So that's actually it for this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask in the comment section. If you found any value in this, go ahead and smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed, be sure to do so because I have some more videos coming your way. Until then, you guys stay safe. Bye-bye.